LA, you see a factory open up in one location, 6 months later they're closed, but they open up in another location. So, well, what's going on here? These are the factories you want to stay away from. We've been stable here for 12 years. We're not going anywhere. We actually own the building. We're in a good position here. We're very transparent. So those are the things to make sure at least you do a factory tour. Make sure that they're not taking your garments and sending it to China. Yeah, it's being made here in LA, because that happens quite a bit. They'll still charge you LA prices, get it done in China, and keep the profit margin.
Good morning. This is Mitch Tarr, CEO and founder of Zin Marketing Inc. And today we are interviewing Human Salim of ArgyleHouse.com, a clothing manufacturer right here in LA that has launched over 1,200 fashion brands in the last 15 years. They know their stuff. So it's a manufacturing success story. There's a good dose of marketing boiled in there. And like I said, they're based right here in LA. So enjoy. This is a good one. Human, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm very good. Thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So let's maybe get people oriented a little bit. Tell us about Argyle House and where you guys fit in the world.
Yeah. So Argyle House is a fashion design company and apparel factory based in Los Angeles. We do all of our work here in LA, so we're proudly American made. So, clients come to us big and small, from startups all the way through, national brands that need ideation, design development, product development for their apparel, and then full scale production. And again, our point of competitive advantage is that we do everything under one roof. I own the factory. All my employees are properly on my payroll. We are compliant with all California regulations, specifically as it relates to garment manufacturing, because we're an extremely regulated industry in the most regulated states. So, we operate totally above board with the state. We don't cut any corners there. So, all the things related to environmentalism, sustainability, fair wages in the workplace, and workers' rights, we meet and exceed all of California's regulations there. So we've launched over, I would say somewhere over 1,500 startups in e-commerce in the last 12 years that we've been in business. And so, that's what we do. That's hopefully where we fit.
Well, that opens up a whole bunch of questions. Of those 1,500, what sizes are they ultimately? How many are like pure raw startups, like, hey, I've got an idea, I want to do something with it? And how many are past that stage and already have a toehold or a foothold in their industry?
Yeah, the vast majority are pure startups. So everything from, college kids with ideas, celebrities. We've worked with influencers that have tons of followers that think they're going to launch a brand and they'd get very, very successful there. Or, from the rapper to the bored housewife in the Midwest with money to burn to, experienced and, seasoned designers. And so when they come to us, a lot of the startups that aren't experienced, they come to us for our expertise, because fashion is a very tricky industry to get all the parts to work properly so that you can get to launch. There's a lot of parts to focus on. One of my clients right now, he's a neurosurgeon, one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He does brain surgery on children. And when it comes to fashion, he's doing a very high-end elevated scrub collection for doctors. He had no idea all the different parts and pieces, fabric weight, fabric stretch. What's a pattern? When I say pattern, it means one thing to you because there's a universal definition of the word pattern. And then there's an industry definition of the word pattern. And when I talk about stuff like this, it's like, so we hold their hands, we educate them, we mentor them, consult them, so that by the time they're done with the process with us, hopefully they have a little mini degree in fashion. It runs the gamut. I mean, from we have doctors, lawyers, we've got a software engineer as a client. Very smart people in their own world, but again, fashion is a whole different animal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We, I would agree with you, because we do marketing in our agency for fashion brands, and it's the same, but it's different every single time.
Yeah.
And there certainly are some things in the fashion business that are unique. So, for example, one of the things that fashion brands that we've worked with in past have struggled with is this whole made in the US feature. Let's talk about that from a marketing perspective first. How much marketing value do you find that holds, and what's the best way that people can use that in marketing their brands if they are in fact made in the USA?
Well, that's a great question. And there's two ways to look at this because there's made in the USA, then there's made in California. Different laws, different standards, and different labeling laws, by the way. So certainly made in the USA does bring with it the idea of the perception of quality, right? And that's true for the most part. But California brings with it, like I said, we're regulated with tons of, licenses above and beyond what any other standard business would need. The garment industry is extremely regulated for a lot of good reasons too. There were some issues in the 80s and 90s with sweatshops and child labor. So they've really clamped down way before my time, by the way. I wasn't involved in any of that. But when you say made in California, made in Los Angeles for apparel, it's a whole nother thing because it's not just quality. It is, like I said, the way we have to treat our fabrics, the way that we have to discard of our fabrics for waste and sustainability, the way that we have to work with our employees in terms of fair wages. Of course, we're paying them well above what the state minimum is, and the state minimum is higher. I think only New York might be higher than California. I might be wrong on that. I don't know. I don't even know what minimum wage is. We pay, clearly far and above that. For example, we have the health department comes in here twice a year, unannounced. They do their random inspections with us twice a year, and they check for things like temperature. Do we have enough water for the workforce? So that they're, so they look at all these little things. So it's about the way the garment is made, the product is made. It's like, well, who's it made by, and are they being treated properly? Are they, uh, in a healthy and safe work environment? So that builds into quality, yes, but it's also we have a lot of clients that come to us and they ask us about how much are you paying your workers? What are your sustainability standards? What do you? So it's all of it. It's all encompassed into what you would call quality.
Yeah. So is that a factor in when you're doing your own customer acquisition? Is that a factor in how you position yourselves relative to other alternatives, both onshore and offshore? And then the end user, the client, is that a factor? Because that's a long story to tell.
Mhm.
When I'm marketing a cycling jersey, for example.
Well, yeah. So what I tell clients is, all of the things that makes us as a company great when it comes to the regulations. My story is now your brand's story, and you don't have to mention my company. We're way in the background. We're deep in the shadows. So mention Argyle House or not, that's not my objective. You're my customer, the brand. Your customer is not my customer for the most part, right? So I don't need to market to your customer. So you could say that we're made ethically and sustainability in a factory that practices fair wages and human rights and all this and that. Don't even mention us. So all the things that I'm held to, all of my brand attributes now become your brand attributes just by default.
Yeah. Yeah. So of your 1,500 customers, then,
Hmm.
um, do you keep an eye on their success rate and how they get off the ground and then how they are able to grow? Uh, I know the failure rate of startups is,
Pretty high.
it's not it is pretty high. Um, but when you wrap your arms around them with your level of expertise, how does that help them improve their level of success?
Well, it significantly increases the probability of success because if they come into this with no knowledge, and a lot of them do, getting into fashion, it's a big dream, it's a big wish item. No matter who you are, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, software engineer, or just some college student, or even not, whoever that has an idea and they've sketched something on paper, whether pencil sketch, a crayon sketch, or any kind of concept, we'll bring it to life. Right. So, the overall point here is that they come to us for our expertise and our knowledge, and they hopefully walk away with some level of, or more than a level of understanding. Now, in terms of the volume of success versus not, I used to work prior to fashion. I've been in this business for 22 years, but before I used to work in the music industry and I worked for some of the large record labels. And so I got to see, the law of averages. You'll sign 100 bands and maybe one or two of them becomes a hit to pay for all the other losses, right? It's the same more or less in fashion. We see a lot of clients. And so by statistically, a few of them will make it really, really big, but a lot of them, they may not make it super big, but they may sustain themselves. But I also see, to be quite transparent, a lot of them do give up after a period of time because they don't have the full knowledge of how marketing works. Now, I will tell you that, I'm doing this business for 12 years. About 2 years ago, I saw this as a pattern where they come to us, they pay us the money to launch the collection, we do all this work, they launch the line, and I don't hear from them anymore. So I'll go to their website, say, hey, whatever happened to so and so? And I'll look at the website, I'm like, oh my God, this website is horrible. There's a lot of issues that need to be resolved here. You got to get the consumer to the checkout within 4 clicks, the images, I can go on for days. So I partnered with a marketing agency and said, look, I'm going to do all the work that we do in terms of development and manufacturing. And then I'm going to hand them over to you so that you can properly build them a website. You can probably do their digital marketing, properly drive traffic to their website, because I rely on those clients that we launched to come back for more production,
Yes.
right? Because
Yeah.
it's a horrible existence to keep churning through clients over and over and over again. But so about 2 years ago, we partnered with a company that's now we kind of not so much white label their work, we hand them right over without even, taking any commission. It's just like, just make them successful so they come back, you know?
Yeah. No, that kind of partnership is smart because like when we work with fashion businesses and other industries as well, we work on the retention side, like email and SMS marketing. And I mean, it's frighteningly, it's scary how bad the general e-commerce businesses are doing that element of their business and how easy it is to get a lift of like 20, 30, 40% off the top line revenue. And that changes the numbers, immensely for a company, that even one that's getting off the ground.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Email marketing is important. I'm going to be transparent. It works. I've never been a fan of email marketing for myself, but it works because I'll come to my desk every morning and I have no less than 50 to 75 marketing emails I have to fish through to get to the emails I need to get to, right? But in a prior company, every time sales were down in a prior company that I used to be the CEO of, marketing would say, let's blast an email. Okay, let's blast an email. And next thing you know, yeah, sales come right in. It's a phenomenon. But I hate it for myself, but it works. It works.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny too, because I've been in the business doing email marketing for 18 years. This is my 18th year.
Yeah.
And every year it's like, oh, email is dead. It's just not going to work. It's going to be
Yeah, it
replaced
works.
by a list of things and it's still going strong. And it's still, like I said, it's kind of scary how people are just calling it in. They're not really engaged in optimizing their emails. I mean, we see that all the time. Um, what are your favorite products to build and make?
The challenging ones. We're not your standard t-shirt factory. Although we can make great t-shirts, that's not what we do. We started off as a intimate apparel factory, so making women's corsetry and bras and things like that. And to make a corset and bra, there's the most complicated garment to make. There's so much geometry involved. So the proverbial wisdom in the industry is if you can make a women's bra, you can make anything. And so yeah, we spent the first couple of years just focusing on that product category. And now we're doing everything. We do outerwear, we do sportswear, athletic wear, I mean, every category. So the more challenging it is, we've done stuff for the military, we've done stuff for major auto brands. I guess I can mention Nissan and Tesla. We've done some work for. But yeah, I mean, if someone says, "Hey, I got some T-shirts, I want to slap a logo on it," yeah, that's not really us. We like the challenging work, and it's because it elevates the team. It elevates our skill sets. We don't want to just get comfortable doing one thing, right? And I can say very proudly that in the 12 years I've been in business, my factory crew has been with me. Almost all of them have been with me since day one. The last factory machine operator that I hired was 8 years ago. You know,
Wow.
at little to no turnover in the factory. And part of the reason is, well, they like their job. But they've gotten so good at what they do across a variety of categories. So we have the factory employees, and then we have the office employees, and we have the development employees. And so, yeah, very, very little turnover. So, yeah, as far as categories, we're open to everything.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're doing product development just based on what comes at you, as opposed to a lot of people that do it the other way around. It's like, let's build hoodies today, and then we'll do ski shells tomorrow, and then we'll do. But if you're sort of driven by what comes at you from customers, um, you don't have to make those decisions. It's just really a yes, no.
For the most part, I mean, we do get some clients potential. We'll get leads that have products that are just, maybe, oh, I don't know. There was, some dog apparel that was just not really our thing in terms of capabilities. Of course, when you're doing pet apparel, they want it super, super cheap, and that's just outside of our capabilities. If it's something like that, heavy leathers or heavy denims, we don't do, and so we do work with some leathers, the thinner denims. But when it gets to the really thicker, like upholstery grade fabric, our machines are not calibrated for those heavier fabrics. So but for the most part, yeah. But we've seen over the years where our core strengths are. So we market to those strengths. So yes, while we can do everything and we'll talk to anybody for the most part, there are certain categories that we would like to see more of, and that's what is kind of more routine. We're always doing swimwear. There's always a swimwear client or two that we're working on. There's always an athletic wear client, be it golf polos to Lululemon style leggings, whatever the case might be. Those two categories is like a staple for us, and then everything else that we get, all the other inquiries that we get for outerwear, motorcycle jackets. We did a great job for I might be under NDA, but it's for a huge defense contractor, huge, that we did some bomber jackets for. Yeah, and those were, really challenging and difficult to make, but we do it and we love to do it. But yeah, we have certain categories that we are always on our calendar, if you will, and then other categories that come and go.
Yeah. So, do you have a competition in the country, or is your competition all offshore?
Great question. I do have competition here in LA. So LA is the largest ecosystem for fashion in the US. And just to give you a quick background, the fashion industry represents $17 billion a year worth of economic activity just to the city of LA alone, never mind outside of LA. So at one time in Southern California, we had about 9,000 garment factories. We're down to about maybe 1,500 or so at this point. But there's nowhere else in the US where you have a concentration of 1,500 apparel factories. And with it comes the ecosystem of all the textile houses and the wholesalers of materials, all the trim fabric suppliers, designers. There's some really, really amazing design schools, fashion design schools here in the area too. So the whole ecosystem is right here. So as difficult as tough as it is to run a company here in California these days, I entertained the idea of moving my whole operations to Vegas several years ago. I said, yeah, I just can't. I mean, if a machine breaks down here, I could call my machine repair guy and he's here within 24 hours and we're back in business in Vegas or anywhere else. It's like, well, what do we do? So I have 50 machines. I have to buy 50 more machines for redundancy in case one goes down or something. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Uh, yeah, I think made in LA is a huge value add to the client, but also, yeah, this is where the ecosystem is, and this is where we have to continue working.
Yeah. So, how about what do you do specifically for customer acquisition? Uh,
Yeah, so we've been really lucky. So you talked about competition. We have a lot of local competition that we have to stay on top of. I don't worry about the overseas people. We look at them as indirect competitors. We do lose some business, let's say, but not enough to where I'm worried about, the factories in China or Bangladesh. They're not competition to me. My competition is right here in LA. When we started this idea of a one-stop shop, no one was doing that. Now a couple of other companies are doing it. So we have to continue to stay competitive and on top. When I started this, no one had a website. 12 years ago in the garment sector, no one did SEO. No one did, digital marketing. So I launched this company coming from the mindset of we have to have a brilliant website. We got to SEO the heck out of it. Don't even know what terms to SEO for, but back then, 12 years ago, you just figure, how to make a fashion brand, garment manufacturing in LA. And certainly that brought us to the top of Google for, I don't know, roughly about 400 terms. We are probably number one, two, or worst case scenario, number three at the top of Google organically for a ton of, industry related search terms. That's one. Then reluctantly, I started doing some advertising, Google ads. So we have Google organic and Google ads. Then also we have our Meta ad platform. We do some email marketing. So not much, but we do some. But right now, what the exciting thing is that we're getting a lot of inquiries lately through AI. We'll ask clients. It's actually on our intake forms. How did you find out about us? Or when my sales team talks to the prospects, they'll ask, how did you hear about us? And we're hearing a lot of, Chat GPT. We're hearing a lot of, Claude or the Google Gemini. So that's exciting. And there's I think a particular reason how and why we got there is because we do a lot of content. We do a lot of, internal blogging. We do a lot of external posting, of course, on Instagram and things like that. We do a lot of press releases. We issue press releases that are AI optimized press releases. And we've been doing it for years now. So, for as long as AI has been around, I guess a couple of years at the most. And so we jumped on that really, really quick.
So you're not really waiting to find out the impact AI will have on the SEO part of the business. You went after it right away.
Yeah, absolutely. There are certain technologies that I, not shy away from, but I don't gravitate to as quickly. AI, I jumped right into it. I just said, since the invention of the internet in and of itself, everything between the internet and AI that's been invented tech-wise, it's a complete waste of time. So it's a solution without a problem. No, Uber is a solution without a problem. Nobody had a problem driving. Nobody had a problem taking a taxi. Everything has been, but AI, now that is on the level of the telephone, the airplane, the internet, AI. So I said, now that is, I'm going to put a lot of effort to learning about it. We actually use AI a lot internally within our own systems when we do our workflow here. Everybody has a account with. We have the business platform for ChatGPT, and everybody has their own dedicated seat, and we're all interconnected. So we share our knowledge back and forth. And there's I would call the central brain of the company now that knowledge never leaves. If a key employee leaves, the knowledge remains. So that's been a really big advantage for us.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, based on your experience, you just have this 12-year run of deep knowledge in the fashion business. What advice would you give? Maybe 2 or 3 points specifically for, let's call it a startup brand. I maybe have a concept or an idea I want to launch. Maybe I have money. Maybe this is a side hustle. But what would you say to those people?
Certainly, you got to do your homework, right? And if you're in Los Angeles or if you're anywhere in the country and you engage a company out here in LA, and again, this is where the major players are, you have to vet them properly, have proper meetings, make sure if you have the capabilities and the resources to come out and take a factory tour. We, as an example, are super transparent. We love to walk people through the factory, show them everything we have going on here. We have a location here in the San Fernando Valley. We have a showroom in the fashion district in downtown LA. And so come take a tour with me. I'm happy to show you around and introduce you to my workers. So you got to get properly vet your potential production partners. In California specifically, make sure they are licensed. Let me explain how this is. As I said, we have a license from the Department of Labor, as is mandatory. If you don't have this license as a factory and as a client, and when the factories get raided, because they do, there's a whole division of the Labor Department focused just on the garment factory. It's a misdemeanor, so it's a crime to run a factory and to work with a factory without a license. But more so, there's a fee associated, and that fee, last I read, it was $1,000 per garment. So if you're making a 500-piece production run, that's a $500,000 fine that the factory gets hit with and the client gets hit with. And when it comes to California, hell or high water, they're going to get their money. I've seen this happen with other people. I was like, wow. It's dangerous in California to run a company like this and to work with. So make sure they're licensed. Make sure you get a factory tour. Make sure that if you can, even speak with the owner of the company. I get on the phone, with prospects and with clients. A lot of them have my cell phone. Give me a call. I have no problems talking to my clients. I have no problems talking to prospects. I do have a sales team that handles all the early stage, closing the deals and so forth. But if the CEO of the company is unwilling to at least say hello to a prospect, that's a red flag. I hear this. This is why I mentioned it. But that's been part of my DNA. I mean, I'm a talker. I'll get on the phone with anybody and talk for hours. So I love that. And I want to educate people. If they're going to be my client, I want to get to know who they are. And kind of share in their dream. Those are the things. Make sure you just vet your factories properly. Make sure they're licensed. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pitfall. Probably, that would be buried in a million list of a million things you're already doing to launch something new.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. But right there, if you trip up and do it wrong, you're never going to launch. Because these factories are always, and there's another thing about factories always moving. In LA, you see a factory open up in one location, 6 months later they're closed, but they open up in another location. So, well, what's going on here? These are the factories you want to stay away from. We've been stable here for 12 years. We're not going anywhere. We actually own the building. So we're in a good position here and we have nothing to hide. So we're very transparent. So those are the things to make sure at least you do a factory tour. Make sure that they're not taking your garments and sending it to China saying, oh, yeah, it's being made here in LA, because that happens quite a bit. They'll still charge you LA prices, get it done in China, and keep the profit margin. There's a lot of people in this industry that don't even have factories, though they position themselves as though they do. They could be consultants or whatnot. They call themselves manufacturers, but they're not the manufacturers. If you don't own machines and you don't have factory workers on your payroll, you're not really a manufacturer. But what they do is they'll bring in they'll take the jobs and they'll come to us. A lot of them may come to us, or they may go to my competitors. They will secure the deal, secure the client, and then run around and kind of cobble it together, because the client might be in Texas or the client might be in wherever, another state, Tennessee, wherever. They're not going to come to LA. They're not going to see the true nature of the operations. We see this a lot. We hear this a lot. We get a lot of clients saying, I've spent so much money with this other company. It's like, well, I know this company. They don't have a factory. So I've been in the industry long enough to know exactly what they're talking about. And oftentimes I'll tell me who it is. And so we know everybody in this industry, every player that matters, we know. Now, a lot of the smaller kind of the operators that are opening and closing, winning around, we don't care to know them, and they do what they do. Yeah, it's just make sure you properly vet your potential partners.
yeah. All right. How about on the marketing side? It seems to me it would be challenging to launch a new swimwear line. Uh, how do you make yourself stand out in that segment?
Yeah, great question. Marketing, as you know, has changed tremendously. So it's not just, okay, I'm going to launch a swimwear line and then cast a wide net and hope, national advertising and print ads. Those days are gone. You have to cultivate your cluster of fans, not even customers, fans, advocates. The same way Apple doesn't have customers. They have fans and advocates, essentially, right? That's why people will line up in front of an Apple store 2 days ahead of time and then spend the night to get the new product. With social media, you have to look at all the what I call digital doors. You don't just have one retail outlet like the old days where you're just walking through an actual door. You have TikTok shop, you've got Instagram, right? You certainly have your website, you might have affiliate partners. You have to open as many digital doors as possible. And look, if you want to make a lot of money in fashion, and by the way, 1 out of every 4 Shopify sites is an apparel related brand that you've never even heard of, but they're making good money now. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions, who knows? I had a client, she runs a swimwear brand out of Georgia by herself. It's just her. We do the production, and by herself, she's shipping, a couple $100,000 a year, and she's super happy with that. That's all no employees, nothing at all. And so she does her own shipping, she does everything, and she's making her own, she's happy with that's what she makes. Um, you don't need to compete with the big brands. You need to compete with, and not even compete. It's just a matter of you need to cultivate your own audience. And with social media, there's no better way to do that these days. So build the brand, build it live. Come to us, come into the factory, take pictures of our workers working on your garments, show the fabric going through the needles, document the fit tests. When we make the samples, we'll have a fit model come in. They'll try everything on. We'll take fit notes, see what needs to be adjusted, where, document these things, make little reels, make little TikToks about it. Hey, we're going to do our fitting today. Hey, today we're going to do, our first round of production. Hey, today we're going to, go fabric shopping. Document all this, build it live so that the audience, it's kind of like a little mini series, like the audience, the people that are watching on TikTok or Instagram, they kind of now become a part of your story. They want to see, well, what are they going to do next? And then it all culminates to, hey, we're launching next week, right? So, and then there's obviously some email components there. When we tell clients to launch their websites, launch your website in advance of the product and say coming soon, and give something away for free just to capture that email address. You know, and what are you giving away for free? Oh, I don't know, a style guide. A shopper's got a top 10 list of, what to wear, what not, depending on your, if you're doing the swimwear line, the top 10 vacation spots for, whatever. But just give something away for free just to capture that email. And once you get to your first 1,000 emails, then it becomes all very kind of, algorithmic, as much as I hate to say it, because there is statistics that says, for every 1,000 email addresses, you may generate 20 to 30 transactions. So now it just becomes a numbers game. It becomes an algorithm game. It becomes an email marketing game. As often as you send out emails, and I said in a prior company, every time sales were down, we blasted an email and we had transactions. So, these are some of the things that we advise these clients, on the startup side to look into.
Yeah, that is a really good perspective. Building around your organic customers, and don't try to elbow somebody else out of, you're not going after Victoria's Secrets. You're going after, my little group of people. That's a really good perspective to take.
Yeah.
Really, Hooman, I really appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you so much. This was great. And hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, thanks. So have a good one.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoyed that and found some information in there that is actionable and helps you to grow your business. As you may or may not know, it's in marketing. We've been doing email marketing for companies for 18 years now. And we know a thing or two because we've learned a thing or two. But I want to make you an offer. The first thing we do when we take on a new e-commerce client is to build out their welcome series. It's not flashy, but it is consistently one of the largest revenue generators of all the flows that we install. And most brands don't have a good one. So if you feel like you might not have a good one, I want to give you a head start. Send me your site. Just send me an email to mitch@zinmarketing.com. And I'll map out a custom welcome series flow for your brand. The flow, the angles, all the copy that you use. Basically enough material to basically make it live. Free money, if you will. Just done for you. No strings attached. I'll send everything back via email. Send an email to mitch@zinmarketing.com. Free welcome flow.